All right, welcome everyone. We're very happy to have you all here today. My name is Constable Erin Brown. This is my partner, Constable Danielle Froud, and we're here on behalf of York Regional Police, and we work in the Senior Safety Unit, which is under the Community Services umbrella at York Regional Police. We have had this great partnership where we've got the opportunity today to present to you information on frauds and scams and some information on crime prevention, personal protection, and a little bit on elder abuse. Rogers is here today to record the event and it's going to share it with the community. And we also have other members of York Regional Police that are here today. So I'm going to put them on the spot and bring them on forward. Come on up, please. So these fine-looking young officers is Officer Mandy Clemens and Officer Kevin Stoddart. They work in our 3 district up in Georgina here, Community-Oriented Response Unit. So they go out and they do engagement events like this with us, and they can come out and do any kind of engagement piece, presentations, come out to different events. So put some faces to the names, and please reach out if you have something that you'd like them to come out for. Thank you very much. Okay, so we have a lot of great information for you here today. We want to make sure, actually, I'm going to put you all on the spot, our audience here, we have some homework for you today. It's been a little while since maybe some of you have done some homework, is that right? Yeah? Okay. Your homework today, and everybody at home, make sure that from this presentation you tell at least 2 people about what you've learned here today. Or tell them about the presentation that we're doing, have them watch the video. We are trying to share this information to prevent additional frauds, scams, and those that are being affected because they may be vulnerable in the community. We want to make sure that we are doing our part to get the messaging out there, because sadly there's a lot of criminals that are taking advantage of people, and we want to make sure that the message comes through to everyone. Okay? So everybody ready to do their homework? Okay, we got a quiet bunch here. Come on, liven it up a little bit. All right. So again, thank you to Rogers. We want to thank the Keswick Christian Church for allowing this event to happen at their venue. And sweet treats by Chelsea, for sure. So without further ado, unless I'm missing anything, off we go.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, so before we're going to learn about frauds and scams, Erin and I wanted to make sure that you're well aware of what York Regional Police provides in the community. So we have 2 senior safety officers, so we're the 2, and we also have a social worker on staff that works with seniors. Did anybody know that? Yeah, so I have one person saying yes. So we do have a social worker, her name is Chantel Bennett, so we work together as a team. We also have elder abuse investigators that work at all of our districts. So if there happens to be an occurrence or something that happens at your home and it involves a senior and it needs specialized investigations, we do have officers that are trained at all of our police districts. We work closely with Victim Services of York Region. If you are a victim in York Region, you will get a phone call by Victim Services to provide additional resources to you. Sometimes they will reach out to our office and ask us to follow up with you further if you need additional resources or assistance by the police. We also are part of a couple programs. Has anybody heard of our Vulnerable Person Registry or Project Lifesaver? So I have one person putting their hand up. Okay. So Chantel Bennett, our social worker, she runs those 2 programs. The Vulnerable Person Registry would be anybody in the community that is vulnerable. So it doesn't matter what age you are, but you could be a vulnerable youth or an vulnerable adult or a senior. And what would happen is that you would fill out, or your loved one would fill out paperwork regarding the reasons why you're a vulnerable person in the community. And they would get your photograph of your loved one, what the person looks like, any medical conditions, and if the police happen to speak with that person, who are we going to contact, or who is the emergency contact person, which would be important if the police happen to stop your loved one. You would want to know and know that the police can contact you right away. And part of that program is we have the vulnerable police, like it's like a card, ID card, and the vulnerable person, we suggest that they have that with them so that the police do engage with them, that we can pull that information out as quickly as possible, and then we can touch base with them. As well with our vulnerable person registry, if you do have somebody who's vulnerable and they live at your home, if 911 happens to be called, it would automatically be linked to our 911 call takers, and then they would notify the police on their way to your home that somebody is vulnerable that lives at your home. And that program is completely free. The other one is Project Lifesaver. That is for someone who is known to wander. So we do have people in the community that potentially are nonverbal or that are unable to tell the police or tell the community what their name is. They might not remember where they live. And some people will leave their home, and we want to ensure that if they do leave their home, that we have a system that the police could come out and try to locate them as soon as possible. So with Project Lifesaver, your loved one would sign the person up, and what they would wear, it's almost like a tracking device. It looks like a watch, and the person would wear that on their wrist. And then what would happen is that if the person has left their home, their loved ones would call 911, and then the police would immediately come out to the home or where the person was last seen. And we have specialized officers that are trained to track that person through the signal from the device that they're wearing. So Chantel does run those programs. Before you guys did come in here, we had our senior safety cards. Some of you guys took those. It has the email address and phone number of how to register your loved ones, which are right here. And also it is on our website for the viewers at home. You can go to www.yrp.ca and look up the Project Lifesaver and our vulnerable person registry. So the other thing that we are involved in is phone consultations. Sometimes we get phone calls by our geriatric outreach team in the hospitals. We have chats, the Alzheimer's Society. We have our community that will call us about concerns that they have for their loved one. So we do get a lot of phone calls in our office. The other thing that we are heavily involved is online presentations. Before COVID, we would only do in-person presentations. And Erin and I love coming out and doing these type of presentations and connecting with our community face-to-face. But when COVID happened, we weren't able to do that. So we pivoted and we ended up doing a lot of our presentations on Zoom. And since that has happened, we are now putting that as part of our regular programming, that if anybody in the community has a senior group in York Region, we are able to do Zoom presentations as well. Obviously, we do in-person presentations. And the other thing that we do as part of our team is we do home visits. So there are some seniors that live by themselves in our community, and sometimes people in the community will notice that they need a little bit of additional help, but they're really just not sure how to get that help for that person. So if they do contact our office, or the uniform officers do go to the house, often our uniform officers will call Erin or I, or will receive an email asking for us to help you at your home. So Chantel, our social worker, will come out with either Erin or I, and we will do a home visit if we feel like we need to help the person out in any other way. Chantel can do direct referrals to agencies out in the community and help the person out. Because there's a lot of people that don't know what resources are out there, what programs are available to people, and of course there are some people that just cannot fill out all the intake forms. So Chantel can help out with that. And we do community events. One of our events that we do plan every year in June is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day, which is June 15th. It's every year. And this year we are going to be going out in the community and doing presentations on elder abuse and making people aware of World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So that's something we're going to be doing. We will be coming up to the Keswick, Georgina area to do a presentation in June. So look for that.
Just another little piece of housekeeping I forgot at the beginning. If any of you have any questions, please put your hand up. We'd love to answer it as we go. What we're going to do in that format is ask your question. I will repeat it on the microphone so everybody can hear, including those at home. Okay, great. So some of our top scams we're going to talk about: Canada Revenue Agency. Who's gotten a call from someone saying you're going to be arrested if you don't do your taxes? Yeah, okay, everybody, right? Multiple calls. We have a video we're going to show on that in a moment, which talks about that more specifically. Emergency scams, also known as grandparent scams. Anybody in here heard of those recently? Yeah, there's quite a few happening, yeah. We'll go over that in a minute as well. Romance scams. Anybody here had some romance scams happen? No, I'm just kidding. So romance scams can also look in the form as like a friendship scam. So it could be somebody befriending someone, especially with COVID. We've had a lot of people a little lonelier at home by themselves. They need to make connections, and then sadly they fall vulnerable to these kind of scams. Lottery scams, again, we'll go over that in a minute, but winning a contest or a prize for something you've never even entered. You're getting some stuff in the mail and it's like, what is this, right? So we're gonna bring those issues and the awareness to the front here. Remember to ask questions. There's no such thing as an emergency in any scam. Take the time, talk to your loved ones, talk to your family, friends, talk to the police, call us. We love to chat with people, get out in the community. You can bug our fine Corps officers that are sitting on the side here. They'll talk to you about what's a scam and what's not and what you should pay attention to. Okay, short video here.
This is Mike. Like most Canadians, Mike is a responsible citizen. He works hard, takes care of his family, and he pays his taxes on time. So Mike is surprised when he gets a call. The person on the phone says he's from the Canada Revenue Agency and that Mike hasn't paid his taxes. He tells Mike the police are coming to arrest him if he doesn't pay immediately and demands Mike's banking and credit card information. Mike thinks, am I in trouble? The answer is no. This call is a scam. Unfortunately, some people are fooled by these threats. They are frightened into giving scammers their personal and financial information. But not Mike. Mike listens and then thinks to himself, this doesn't feel right and it doesn't make sense. I better check my online CRA account or call the official CRA number to make sure my tax account is in order. Mike hangs up and checks his account, which confirms he was right. There is no problem with his tax account. Remember, the CRA will never use nasty language or threaten you. The CRA will also never ask for your credit card information or for payments by prepaid credit cards, or ask for your personal information by email or text message. For more information, go to canada.ca/taxes-fraud-prevention.
Okay, what do you folks think of that? Yeah, scary, isn't it? Right? And we get a lot of people that will get this information, perhaps people that may not have English as their first language, and they may not understand that this is a scam, and they think, especially if they're here on immigration visas or whatnot, and they become very fearful, and they can fall for this because they want to make sure that they stay in Canada and they don't have anything happen to them. So this video was courtesy of the Canada Revenue Agency that we received online. Just want to make sure we source that. Any questions on the video? Yes.
Should we call you if we get, I've been receiving your CRA, and should we call you if we get something like that?
Okay, so the question is, should we call you if we have a call like this from the CRA? So if you're not actually a victim of losing any information, you don't need to notify York Regional Police, but we would encourage you to notify the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. And on that blue leaflet that, if you didn't pick one up, they're outside the door there. And for the viewers at home, that information is on our website under our senior safety page. And we would recommend that you report that. The Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre works with the Canadian government and the RCMP, and they take care of all of the scams that are happening across the country and more so across the world. So we know the most up-to-date frauds and scams that are happening, and the more they know, more that gets reported to them, the better that they can display this information. It's also to be noted that only 5 to 10% of frauds are actually reported to the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre. So it's very shocking, and that's why we're trying to get the message out there and how important it is to make sure this gets reported.
So does anybody know, or what would you do to verify whether or not you owe taxes? What is a couple ways that you can verify?
CRA account.
Your CRA account. Does everybody here have a CRA account online? Okay. If you're not able to do that, or you can speak with a loved one to try to set that up. When it comes to frauds and scams, we always tell people to verify information. So that's your job. So if you get a phone call from somebody you do not know on the phone, or a text message or an email, your job is to verify the information before you act. So if you do have an online account, that is one way that you are able to verify whether or not you owe taxes. The other way you can verify is to go into Service Canada in person to verify. Another way, if you're not able to do that, is you can go online and request an appointment with somebody from Service Canada. A lot of people don't know that you can do that, but if you are a senior that has trouble perhaps with mobility, you can request that they either call you or a private appointment in one of the Service Canada locations. So we would much rather you verify the information before you either go to your bank, withdraw your money, or go and get gift cards and try to pay somebody over the phone for this. We want you to, again, verify the information, and then you'll find out whether or not you actually owe money. So that's going to be the theme of our conversation here, is your job is to verify.
And just be mindful as well with the Canada Revenue Agency. They're not going to send you an email with full information about maybe owing taxes. They may send you a brief email saying check your online CRA account, but they won't have any confidential information on there. They will not text you. Most times they will not call you. There is the odd time they might, but again, verify the information before you give any information over the phone.
Okay, so emergency scams, we briefly mentioned we were going to talk about these. So, did a family member recently call you because they were arrested? So, we say that these are, when it comes to seniors, the person on the phone will claim they're your grandchild or granddaughter, but it also can be it's your niece or nephew, it could be another relative in your household. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your grandson or granddaughter. So the person on the phone will call you. They'll sound very panicked, very upset. They will tell you that they've been involved in either a car accident, or they were arrested for impaired driving, or arrested for drugs in a vehicle. So that is the reason why they're calling you. They're telling you that they need to be bailed out, meaning that they need money, okay? So you might say, okay, well, that will never happen to me. However, we have a large population of our seniors that this is happening to. And a lot of people will say, well, that sounded just like my grandson or granddaughter. Well, what happens is that when the person's on the phone with you, first of all, their voice might be high-pitched, they might be crying. They will say to you, well, I broke my nose when I got in the car accident, that's why my voice sounds a little different, Grandma. They might also say that they recently got COVID, and that's why, again, their voice sounds a little bit different than what you recognize. And then often, sometimes, instead of it being your grandson or grandchild, somebody on the phone could say that they're the lawyer representing them. Or they could say it's the police representing your grandson or granddaughter. So there's a couple different ways that they will phone you. And then what happens is that they ask you to go to the bank to make a withdrawal. So they'll ask you for several $1,000s, and they'll tell you to go to your bank, withdraw the money, and they usually will tell you a backstory. So they'll tell you, well, when you go to the bank, if they ask you why you need to take the money out, that you need to tell them that you're taking money out because of renovations in your home. That's just one reason that they'll tell you. So they're letting you know that you need to lie to your bank about why you need money out. So I would say that'd be definitely a red flag, right? We don't, typically people that are calling you, either your grandson or granddaughter, you're not supposed to be necessarily lying to your bank about why you need money out. That's a little weird, right? So if that happens, just be very, very wary of that. The other thing that they'll tell you is that there's been a court order and that you are a gag order, and you're not able to tell anybody in your family what's going on. So they tell you you cannot call any relatives, tell them what's happened with the court case because of the gag order. Okay? And of course, you can't call your grandson or granddaughter because they're in jail. No one's going to pick up the phone, right? So they really put that pressure on you that you could get in trouble if you make any calls about the case. So that's why a lot of our seniors are not following up and verifying information like I told you that you need to do, is they're not verifying that information because the person who's calling you is telling you you can't do that. So in that case, I'm telling everybody, ignore that person on the phone, because guess what? The people that are calling you, we don't know these people. We do not know them. If anybody calls you and tells you that they're the police and one of your relatives has been arrested and you need to take money out, that's incorrect. We will never do that. The police don't call people and ask for bail money and tell you an amount and ask you to go to the bank. We don't do that, okay? What else with that one? Then what happens is that they'll tell you once you go to the bank, they'll ask you to call a certain number, and then somebody will come to your house to pick up the cash, okay? Really another red flag, right? If anybody is at court and has to be bailed out, cash is not picked up at people's homes. They'll then say to you that somebody's going to come to your home and they will tell you a code word. So when the person knocks on your door, they'll tell you the word that you guys have agreed upon. So it could be the color blue. And as soon as that person tells you, you know it's the correct person that's coming to pick up the money. Okay? So I'm just letting you know what transpires. After the cash is given to the person, so the bad guy, what happens typically is in a day or so, they will call back and tell you there's been a change in the investigation. Meaning, while the officer was doing the investigation, they searched the car and there was a gun found in the car. So further charges are now being laid, additional charges. The seriousness of the offense is up much higher and they need more money for bail. So they're asking you to go back to the bank again and get more money. And because you've already given money, they're hoping that you're going to give more money again. Okay? And because this is your grandson or granddaughter, in your heart, you want to help them as best as you can. This is your family. You want to do as much as you can. And that's what they're hoping for, is they're hoping to prey on that and that you will go out to the bank to go and get the money. What else, Erin? I think that's...
They make it a very emotional situation. They really play on your heartstrings. They make you fearful for your family member, and a lot of people will fall for this. So don't think anybody is above any of these scams. I know friends around my age who have had these calls and almost fallen for them as well. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't hit just seniors, it can hit everybody. And it's very important that you verify information. You call someone. We actually have a lot of people that may fall for it more so because they are embarrassed that they gave money. And they don't want to tell somebody that they fell for the scam and they gave money. So it's very important, especially if you're talking to family and friends, if they make some kind of comments about this, pay attention to those comments. Have they been a victim? Help them out with it. Encourage them to report it. We also to note, a lot of these persons who come and pick up the money will park in a car around the corner and walk in on foot because they don't want you to see your car or see their car and get the license plate. So that should be another red flag if you're out in the community and you see a car parked on the side of the road, somebody you don't know is getting out, walking up to maybe your neighbor's home and then leave immediately, and you're like, well, that's not right. Like so-and-so lives at that address. Sure, they'll have visitors, but nobody's just going to show up and then walk down the street. Please report those. You can call 911 if you see somebody who looks suspicious. If it's nothing at the end of the day, not a big deal, right? But if it's somebody that we need to pay attention to, we need to investigate it, it's better to catch them in the act. These scams are basically an organized crime type event. They have multiple people, multiple different layers, from the callers to the people that organize it, to the people that learn phone numbers. So it's very, very intricate. And the ones that we're catching on the ground are the couriers, and we try and do our best to move up the chain to figure out who they are. So the more information, the better.
Yeah, and I also want to mention to you as well is that when they come to your home, generally they're wearing a mask, right? They're using the excuse that I need to wear a mask for COVID purposes, so they're not wearing a mask, which is very difficult for us to then identify what they look like. Okay? Yep, go ahead.
Are the banks doing anything on their end when these seniors go? Is there anything they can do, like call a family member or something? Like, I mean, I'm sure right away they know something's going on.
Yeah, so the question is, can the banks do anything? Can they call a family member? What can they do? We are in communication with the banks all the time. We're educating them as well. And we have a good partnership trying to get this message out there. They are doing their best to, kind of vet the information when a senior or somebody comes in and saying, why do you need this money? They have to be careful as well, because asking too many questions, maybe the senior is upset and says, it's none of your business, I just need this money, right? So they can only do so much. But we do have posters, this poster here, that we are actually disseminating to banks as well, so people see it when they come in. We send it to different seniors' home, residences, community homes and residences, so it can get the word out there. And if somebody sees this and went, oh gosh, and that makes them second think about what's happening, then we've done our job. So we are working with the banks as best we can, yeah.
Good question. Yep, go ahead.
On the emergency scam situation where they're calling about a grandchild, do you see the trend of them naming the person, and have they obtained that information through phishing scams?
Sometimes that can happen where they are phishing and looking for information. They're researching the person before they call, but generally no, they're just calling off of numbers that they've located, and they're just hoping that you pick up the phone. Typically, a lot of times, unfortunately, our seniors are giving the bad guy your grandson or granddaughter's name inadvertently. So when they call, somebody who sounds panicked on the phone, and the person will say, is that you, Bob? Is that you, Jen? And you're telling them your grandchild's name, but then you don't realize that you did that. So again, another way to verify is that if they call you and the person says, hi, Nanny, and your granddaughter never calls you Nanny, they only call you Nona or Grandma, that's just something for you to think about. And again, once you get that information from the caller, hang up the phone, and then you need to start verifying the information that you've been told. Please don't go off to the bank or go and start buying gift cards and trying to make payment on this. You want to make sure that this is accurate before before you lose money. Yep, go ahead.
What I suggest is that if you do get a call like that, why not just say, if they say to you, Granddad, it's me.
Yep.
And I say, George, is it you? And he says, yeah. I don't have George, the grandson.
Yeah, so some people, when they answer the phone, they'll play around with the person on the phone. So it's up to you as when you're answering the phone, if you want to do that. But yeah, that does happen. Some people will do that.
I went on the computer to get a ministry's number for donating money. So I called that number, and it turned out that they did a cross-reference somehow. I don't know how they knew. And they said, this is that ministry's number. And I thought, that's strange. That doesn't look like the right number. So then I ended up going on the computer again to find out what the ministry's number was. And they ended up checking it out, and it was scam. They phoned up the number I gave the ministry, and they said, don't donate. They cross-reference numbers on the telephone. I've noticed that with me, that I may call a number, and it's somebody else picking it up.
Yeah, so for those at home who couldn't hear the comments here, this young lady here was looking up a phone number to donate to a certain ministry, and the number they found seemed to be cross-referenced with a scam type number because it didn't go through properly. She did her research, she went and found the correct number, called the ministry, let them know, and they confirmed that yes, that's a scam number, do not donate to that number. So it's very important to verify that information. It's also good to know sometimes when you're doing Googling searches, online searches, and using search engines that the top 4 or 5 may be from different sponsors or advertisements, and they may not be the actual one you're looking for. So be careful on what you're scrolling through, look at the information. If you're not sure, get someone to help you. we want to make sure that you call the right person, and definitely do your homework. If you're not sure, you have that gut feeling that it's not right, then don't do it. Thank you. Romance scams. Okay. It's a lovely picture here. There's a nice fella in the front, romancing some nice young lady who he thinks he's talking to, and then you see the creepo in the back, right? So this just kind of demonstrates what happens online. This person may be a little lonely from COVID. They're searching out somebody, a friend, maybe a romantic partner, and they don't realize that they're talking to a creep in the back. So this doesn't just go for seniors, it can go for young people as well, especially those that may be vulnerable to be exploited. So we just want to make sure that you're mindful. Be careful who you're talking to. Has anybody gotten a text message where it's just a random hello and you're like, oh, I don't know who this is? Yeah. And then, you know, I've done it before where I've texted back, I'm like, oh, you got the wrong number. And then they're like, oh, okay. Well, you sound like a really nice person. Can we chat? It's like, delete, gone, right? So you know it's a scam, right? I got enough friends, thankfully, right? I hope a lot of you have enough friends. So people aren't normally going to do that. That should be a huge concern for you. If you have somebody, a family member, a friend, that all of a sudden starts talking about somebody they met online, even dating apps, you just have to be careful. Is this person legit? Have they ever met them? Are they giving them money? Is there promises to visit? And then all of a sudden there's an emergency and they can't visit, but then your friend or your loved one is sending money to help this person that they don't know. So those are some red flags. This is kind of how the romance scams work. Yeah.
How did they get your numbers when none of your friends are like usually on Messenger? Yeah, she was just somebody messaged her.
Yeah, so the question is, how do they get your number? So a lot of it can be a computer auto-generated. They're just sending it random messages. If you get a text or a phone call, sorry, not phone call, email, if you respond to them, then that person, the scammer, knows that that's a legitimate phone number and a legitimate email. So if you get one, don't respond to them. It's just automated, they're throwing it out there, phishing, right? They're trying to do the catch and see what they can get. So be mindful of that. If something feels too good to be true, if you don't know who they are, ignore them. We've all grown up in the day and age where, you know, a solid handshake was a solid word, right? And everybody had good relationships and treated each other with respect. Sadly, the criminals are taking advantage of that. So I'm not saying that you need to be rude. However, you can say no. You can hang up the phone. That's okay. For me, I hardly even answer my phone anymore if I don't recognize the number. And funny side story, I had a call from passport office recently because I was a guarantor for a friend. I was like, I don't know who that is. I hung up, deleted it, whatever. And then I realized I had a message. I was like, oh shoot, I should have answered that one. So you just never know, right? But take that time, verify it, vet it, and then you make sure you're a little bit safer. Great question.
Okay, so lottery and prize scams. Have we all heard of these ones? You've won the car, yeah? So these lottery scams, what they hope for that you do is that once you've realized you've won that car, that they're hoping that you're going to help pay for either the taxes for the car, the freight for the car. So that's how they get money from you. So again, you'll either get an email, hey, you've won that contest, you've won that car, and you need to contact this phone number. And then they'll give you the phone number for you to call, and then they tell you, lo and behold, you have to pay all these fees in order to collect your prize. Okay? Or otherwise, it could be also a scam where you check your mail, and all of a sudden you look at your mail, and lo and behold, somebody that lives in another country has recently passed away, and that you are potentially the next relative that could inherit the largest sum of money, right? And then they ask you to call a lawyer's office. This is a regular one of those mail frauds that is sent around to hundreds and hundreds of people, and there are people that legitimately think that they have won, or not won, or are about to inherit a large amount of money, so they're hoping that you're going to be paying for, you know, the lawyer's fees and this and that. So in Canada, you cannot win a prize unless you've actually put your name in to win the prize. Right? Or say, you know, if you went and won a coffee, right? You actually have to buy the coffee and then, you know, roll up the rim or whatever. to actually win. the
Roll it
car.
online now.
Roll online, yeah.
Yeah, it's not fun anymore.
Yeah, so just be very careful if you do get that, email, messenger message coming in that you've won something. If you haven't put your name in, it's likely a scam. Just scroll and delete. Again, they're phishing. They're hoping that somebody here will reply and actually think that they've won that prize. So just be very careful of these. Yep, go ahead.
I delete my information all the time when
Yeah.
I don't know a phone number, especially when it says likely scam on the phone number. Anyway, my point is, when you delete something on your phone, is it deleted, gone? Or I've heard that somebody can actually still get information even if you delete it. Do you know that? Anything?
Yes, that's a good question. The question is, once you delete something off your phone, is it truly gone or can they still contact you? So there's a difference between deleting something and then make sure you're blocking the contact. So you have to do kind of a dual purpose. So if somebody, and you'll get this, say with a social media account or a messenger type account, somebody may send you a message, you can block it, report it, and delete it.
Block it? What do you mean block it?
Block it means that that number or that person can't contact you anymore. Yeah, on your cell phone.
I've heard of that.
Yeah, so if you're not sure, ask a loved one to help you out.
Delete my stuff in there.
Landline phone too.
Yeah, landline phones.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so if you're not sure, then contact maybe your provider, figure out how to do it, have a loved one help you. So that, because if you delete it, you could get multiple messages. It's not actually blocking that person or that computer-generated system that's contacting you.
I'll ask my family, they know all of that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Did you have a question?
So many of the numbers that are shown on the, where it explains, shows the number if it is, it says unknown number. That's all, most of mine are unknown number.
Yeah, so the comment here was about unknown numbers coming up or blocked numbers. Again, if you have an unknown number, a blocked number that comes up, don't answer it. If we call from York Regional Police, it will actually come up as an unknown number, unless we put in a code to release the number so you can see York Regional Police. So yeah, if you don't know, don't answer. Even if it's us, we'll call you back, we'll leave a message, and we'll give you information on how to contact us.
Oh, yeah, another question?
I noticed lately that there's a whole lot of different numbers. It used to be 905, et cetera, or 705, but now it starts off at 213 or different area codes. I don't know if that's a good number or not, because our PSWs call and they got these type of numbers. I won't answer if I don't know the number, but what am I supposed to do?
That's hard, yes, because we're trying to tell people that if the number that pops up on your phone, if you don't recognize, you just don't answer the phone. So I can see why that would be a little bit hard for you, because you're saying that PSWs are calling you and they're calling you from numbers that you don't recognize. I guess that's something you have to talk to the PSWs about and say, listen, I probably won't answer the phone if you do call me the first call. You'll have to leave me a voicemail and I will check it right away. Because yeah, you're not sure when they're calling you who it is. But we also don't want you picking up every single call. And again, some of these scams that Aaron and I have been talking about is that as soon as they get that hook into you, you might actually believe the caller and you might make a financial decision because you're either really upset or scared. So we don't want you answering the phone unless you really know who the caller is. Yeah? Oh, yeah.
One quick one. I had somebody call me from Vancouver a couple of weeks ago and said, "Did you just call me?" And it was and I said no, and so somehow scammers got my cell number and called somebody in Vancouver. How did they do that? How did they get my number?
So the question was, somebody from Vancouver called her and said, "Hey, did you just call me?" And she's like, "No, I didn't call you. I don't know who you are." So they're using her number from a call display or whatnot. So that's actually called call spoofing. There is apps online where someone can go online, they can pay a fee, they can say, this is the number I'm going to be calling from, this is the phone number I want to display on the screen, and they pay for that. So it's an aftermarket service. And you may get a phone call from like a 905 number, and it could be somebody from another country. So it's very important that you don't fall for that and be aware that that can happen. And maybe that's why the ministry call, somebody could say, oh, I'm from this ministry. It will actually show up as that ministry's phone number. And then when you, give information or whatever, it's actually coming from another number. So you have to just be very, very careful, especially with telephone sales, any of that kind of stuff. If somebody is soliciting information from you, I would suggest not giving any money or giving any information. That should come from you reaching out to them. Gone are the days are the door-to-door sales persons, right? Or the people calling over the phone, doing surveys, because there's so many scammers out there. You just have to be really careful on who you communicate with.
Yeah, well, once I found out that that was a scam ministry, I decided I wasn't going to donate at all.
Yeah, so she was saying once she found out that ministry, that number was a scam, that she didn't want to donate at all. So sadly, this will hurt different community groups, but we have to make sure that all of you are safe and that your finances are safe. So just have to do your homework. Yeah.
And in regards to like with you donating, that might be an opportunity for you to go in person to the place that you want to donate, right? And then you can, or somebody locally, and then say, okay, well, I'd like to give a donation in person rather than doing it over the phone. That might make you feel a little bit more comfortable for donating. Okay, so for our scams, they're asking you for cash, because cash is gold. They love cash, but another way that they're asking you to pay your debt or pay for the item that you're looking for is gift cards. Now, it's not necessarily always Google Play or Apple iTunes gift cards. I'm just giving you an idea of what gift cards, what they could be asking you for. So typically what they'll do is, so if they say that you owe taxes and you owe, say $500 or $1,000, they'll ask you to go somewhere where you can get gift cards. So we can get gift cards at grocery stores, convenience stores, pretty much anywhere you go these days you can get a gift card. You can buy them online too. So what they're asking you for is at the back of each gift card, usually there's a gray strip. And what they want you to do is they want you to scratch the back off of the card and the gray strip, and then they want you to give them the number. So what happens is that after that number is given out to the person on the phone or via email, is they immediately will go and take that number and they'll put it onto another card. So they load another card. So then your card that said $100 is immediately zero. And that can happen within, I'd say, less than 30 seconds. So it's very difficult for the police to find out where that money was spent or where that money went, because you could have somebody calling you on the phone that does not live here in Canada, and they could be transferring the funds from the gift card in Canada to another country, and then somebody could then be passing that gift card information on to somebody else in another country. So it's really difficult for anybody to track where all the gift card amounts go to. So if anybody asks you to pay for bills through gift cards, that again, that's another red flag. It doesn't really make sense. Service Canada is not going to be asking us to pay for our fees through gift cards, or really any other agency. Really, that's typically not what they do. Now, can you go off and buy gift cards for your family? Of course. If you have somebody that you want to buy a gift card for a birthday, that's fine, because you've initiated that and then you've given the gift card to your loved one. But if anybody on the phone gives us a call and tells us to pay for anything through gift cards, don't do it. It does not proper. It's not the way they should be doing business. And again, and sometimes our victims will be going to our stores, and the employees at the stores will be telling them, hey, are you sure you want to spend $1,000 on these gift cards? Something doesn't seem right. It seems a little bit unusual. And unfortunately, some of our victims, they don't want to believe the person who works there. So someone working at Shoppers Drug Mart, even though they're telling you, hey, that seems a little odd. You're paying such a huge amount of money on gift cards. Are you okay? And they have that conversation with the person, and they still don't want to believe the person in front of them when they're taking out their credit card and paying for those gift cards. They want to believe the person who's called them on the phone. Again, if somebody tells you at a store, hey, that seems like that could be a scam, take that moment to set aside that time and say, you know what, I'm not going to pay for these gift cards, put them back. And then again, your job is to then verify whether or not you need to buy these gift cards and pay for the funds. Okay, so we're going to be watching a video of what phishing is, because Aaron and I have been talking a little bit about how these scammers are trying to get us to respond to them.
Phishing is when a cyber criminal poses as a legitimate organization to try and lure you into providing sensitive data. Sometimes they send you an email or call you asking for your banking or credit card numbers, even your usernames and passwords. This information is then used to access important accounts and can result in identity theft and financial loss. When this is done over SMS text messages, it's referred to as smishing. Here are some of the tactics that might be used by somebody trying to phish or smish you. They might try to scare you by saying your information has already been compromised or threaten to close your account, fine you, or even take legal action if you don't respond. On the other end of the spectrum, some messages will make it seem like you're being rewarded, receiving inheritance from a long-lost relative, winning a contest you've never entered, or getting a refund for something you didn't purchase. Whether they're playing good cop or bad cop, there will often be a sense of urgency to phishing requests. To encourage action without thinking, phishers will often give tight deadlines. No matter the tactic, here are some ways to tell if the messages you receive are actually phishing attempts. Phishing messages can be impersonal, addressing you as sir or madam instead of using your name. They're more likely to have spelling and grammar mistakes or unprofessional graphics than legitimate organizations. They'll also come from a domain unrelated to the company they're pretending to be from. So double-check the address when you receive an email by hovering over it with your mouse. Unfortunately, there are fewer clues when it comes to smishing. The best way to determine if a text is fraudulent is just to ask yourself, would this organization be texting me and asking me to take action? In most cases, the answer is no. In fact, stopping and asking yourself that question is a great way to protect yourself from all forms of phishing. If you're still not sure, get in touch with the organization by using the contact information on their official website. If there's really a problem, they'll let you know. Legitimate organizations don't usually ask you to verify or provide confidential information in an unsolicited email or text. Phishing scams are on the rise, but follow these tips and you'll be sure not to take the bait.
Can you just go back one quick second? Thanks. So that video is from Communications Security Establishment of Canada. Just a source, then we got that from YouTube. Okay, we've got 10 minutes left, we're being told. Okay. So this is just a refresher, how to avoid being scammed. Verify the information, never offer information. Delay, disconnect. So if somebody calls you that's a scammer, wait about 10 minutes before you use your phone to make sure they're not still connected. Home lines only. Cell phones, when they disconnect, then it's done. Don't give cash to anybody you don't know. Verify that information with family and loved ones. And never let anybody access your computer that you don't know, okay? They might be trying to get some information off there. Don't pay by gift cards. It's very difficult for us to get it back. And call police for advice if you need.
Okay, so password protection. So password provides defenses against cyber criminals, which is very important to secure and make sure it's strong. So meaning is that when you're putting together a password, is that it can't just be something super generic, right? We want to have something that's a little bit harder for people to get. So how to create a strong password would be avoid using personal information. So we don't want to use like our dog's name or our cat's name or maybe our favorite daughter's name or son's name. We don't want to put that information out. Use at least 12 characters long if possible when you are creating a password, and add random characters and numbers to your password. They also recommend you use passphrases wherever possible. Passphrases are meaning is that something that just doesn't make sense. So you're going to say yellow, sky, grass. That doesn't make sense, but it makes sense to you as the person who's created that password. And create unique passwords for all of your online accounts. You can record and put things on paper somewhere, but make sure you know where it is, and obviously don't put it somewhere that someone easily could get all your passwords. Like, don't put it in the office where everybody would be able to have access to that.
A list of passwords, just to add to that, is really important to have and maybe keep with your will and your secure documents. So if you do suddenly pass away or something happens to you, your family members can get those passwords to deal with your accounts.
Okay, so what do you do if you are a victim? So I would contact your bank immediately if it involves a fraud. Especially if it involves credit cards, you've transferred funds, they might be able to stop the transaction. So you want to contact the bank either in person or over the phone. Then you can contact York Regional Police. Lots of ways to report a fraud. You can do an online report, you can speak to an officer on the phone, you can speak to an officer in person. Collect and keep evidence. We tell people, do not delete any of the evidence, meaning emails, log files, ransomware demands, cryptocurrency information. You'd be surprised how many people will just delete things, think they're not important, but then when we do an investigation, we don't have them. So make sure you keep that information. Notify others, okay? So if you've told somebody about an investment and everyone's gonna get 10% on that investment, and then all of a sudden you realize, oh, I think I've just been defrauded, you wanna make sure you've told anybody else that you've mentioned it to, because you don't want your friends or family to also be affected by the fraud. And then contact the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre to report the scam. They do have an awesome program with seniors, that they have volunteers that work with seniors. If you are a fraud and you need additional assistance, they will help you.
We're going to touch on distraction thefts quickly, just some personal safety. Anybody in here leave their purse or personal items in the grocery cart when they're shopping? Yeah, don't do that anymore, please. Yeah. Yeah, watch your purse, right? If you're filling up with gas, lock your vehicle. These distraction teams, or persons will work in teams. They'll come in, somebody will distract you, ask you a question. You know, you could be shopping and they're like, oh, what kind of yogurt do you like? And somebody's around the corner stealing stuff out of your purse or your bag. Okay? Just be mindful of that. Don't leave purchases in plain view in your vehicle. Put them in the trunk, cover them over. Just be mindful of your surroundings.
Okay, so personal awareness, like Erin said, be aware of your surroundings. Travel in pairs when possible. So if you're going to be going out for a walk, you know, if you can, you know, go with a friend. Make sure you are traveling in well-lit, populated areas, especially at night, right? You don't want to be walking out in the middle of the night by yourself, and you don't want to be going down a dark alley, right? You want to make sure you're walking in areas where there's lots of outdoor lights. Carry a cell phone and a noisemaker. And make sure your cell phone is charged before you go out for the day. There are lots of people that don't check every day and they don't use their phone every day, and then they all of a sudden realize, hey, I don't have my phone charged. So make sure your phone is charged. And then if you are going somewhere specifically and it could be somewhere that you don't normally go to, maybe you should tell a friend just in case there's a problem, especially if you haven't traveled to that location. Avoid wearing headsets that can compromise your hearing. Wear hearing devices and glasses. So again, personal awareness is when perhaps you're out for a walk. Don't take your cell phone out and start walking across the street and you're not even paying attention.
Oh, sorry.
I see it all the time. It really bothers me, right? When you're driving up to an intersection and all of a sudden you see all the pedestrians and they're literally have their face down in their cell phone, right? And you know, we just want to make sure that you're not doing that, because we need to pay attention. Our job as a pedestrian is to be looking around us to see what cars are coming towards us, and also to make sure we're making eye contact with that driver in that vehicle to make sure that they see us. Because some drivers, they're also distracted, right? And don't take shortcuts through parks and alleys. That seems obvious, but a lot of people do that. And if you see anything suspicious, you can call York Regional Police. Our uniform officers, we don't mind at all if you call us about something that you think is suspicious. We would rather come out and verify whether or not it was suspicious than something happened and no one came out to check it out, okay?
We're going to just touch briefly on some different types of abuse that may happen with seniors or persons who are vulnerable. Financial abuse, I know the writing here is a little small, so I'm just going to read it out to you. So unpaid bills, fraudulent signatures, misuse of power of attorney when it comes to property, which includes finances, sudden changes in spending, wills, or other financial documents. Those are just some examples. Neglect of older adults, leaving them in an unsafe place, not providing food or liquids, not having the proper hygiene or clothing. Some physical abuse could be unusual weight loss, not having their daily living aids, so hearing aids, walkers, canes, whatever devices, unexplained injuries, bruises, cuts, maybe over or under medicating. Sexual abuse, this could be unwanted physical touching that may be of a sexual nature or unwanted advances. Emotional abuse, increased fear of anxiety, isolation from friends and family, as well as unusual changes in behavior or sleep, and withdrawal from normal activities. So these are just some basic examples. If you think somebody may be a victim of any of these types of abuse or you have questions, please reach out to our unit at any time. We're not going to discuss anything further here just for sensitivity issues, but we do encourage you to reach out.
So for some supports and programs, we work very closely with Elder Abuse Prevention Ontario. If any of you have questions regarding whether or not somebody is being abused, you can contact their office just to chat it over with, because sometimes people are not sure whether the signs are abuse or if it's just something that they're just noticing. So perhaps that's a great agency for you to get that information and speak to somebody, as well as they have webinars online and that you can get educated on all the topics that we discussed. We do have a senior safety line that's 24 hours a day, multiple language. If you have concerns for a senior or you have concerns for yourself, you can call that senior safety line. The Advocacy Centre for the Elderly is a legal aid clinic in Toronto that specializes in senior law. And if anybody had any questions, you can contact their offices Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for their intake days and speak to somebody who specializes in that. Crime Stoppers, if anybody has witnessed a crime in York Region and wants to remain anonymous, you can contact that number and get in touch with somebody. If you do call Crime Stoppers, they obtain the information and then they will then send us the tip. We don't actually get your information. And in a case of emergency, you're going to call 911. And our York Regional Police number is there and our website.
All right, so that's the end of our presentation. We sadly don't have any more time for questions during the programming, but we welcome them once we're done. Again, I'm Erin Brown, and this is Danielle Froud of our Senior Safety Unit. We want to also mention that March is Fraud Prevention Month, hashtag FPM 2023. So we want to put that out there. We're trying to get fraud prevention awareness out there to everyone, as well as all these other issues and different things that we talked about today. Our email is seniorsafety@yrp.ca. Don't worry, it's no test for that. Our blue leaflet that we talked about, all that information and phone numbers are on here, as well on our website. Thank you very much. We want to thank the Keswick Christian Church. We want to thank Rogers, Sweet Treats by Chelsea, and all of you fine folks here in Georgina. Make sure you do your homework and spread the news. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.